Summertime just started, and I was asked to review these two pellet grills side-by-side comparison, do an unbiased review, and give you all my real opinion of them. On the left I have the Camp Chef Woodwind, which also has the Seer Box, retails at $8.99, and on the right is the Traeger Pro Series 22 Bronze, which retails at $7.99. Both excellent looking grills, both basically the same type of grill with the pellets. There's a probe inside the cook chamber which tells the controller what temperature the cook chamber is, and then of course it runs the auger to keep your dialed temperature. The Camp Chef on the left also has that propane barbecue sear box, which will be really nice. You see the grates, let's compare them side by side. They almost look identical. Looks like the Traeger is just a little bit taller, and they're both the same width. Or maybe one's just got a little bend in it. But the Camp Chef does have a little more square inch cooking surface. If you want all the specs, I recommend going to Camp Chef or Traeger and get all the specs. I'm not going to discuss those. I'm going to tell you what I think about the grills. But pretty much kind of the same construction as far as your grease drip pan battle, which will catch all your drippings and run them out down to your grease buckets. Both pretty much the same design. And also your heat diffuser, which goes right over your fire pot to help diffuse the heat, spread it out more. That's why you don't get any flare-ups or grease fires at all with the pellet grill. Pretty much the same thing with the Traeger. Let's go ahead and talk about that. Let's go look at the fire pots, take a look at the inside. There's the probe that I was talking about, which talks to the controller to tell how fast the auger to run. And here is a look at the Traeger. It's just the steel fire pot. You can see the holes there. That's where the fan will blow air down the auger tube and out those holes, which helps with combustion. If you can kind of see it, you can see just the end of the auger. Then below that auger is the hot rod. That's what gets hot and will start the pellets on fire. Let's take a look at the Camp Chef. Camp Chef fire pot, obviously stainless steel, super nice. My experience with the Traeger is that fire pot will rust out. Here's the probe, same thing, but the other beauty of the Camp Chef here is it has that trap door. Because when you got to clean out, when you need to vacuum out the Traeger, you need to remove all this stuff, and that grate's going to be greasy, dirty. Your drip pan's going to have grease on it, that's going to be dirty. So now you have to take all that dirty stuff out, set it down somewhere that you don't mind getting dirty, and get your vacuum out and vacuum out that fire pot. If you leave the ashes in there, it will rust out that fire pot over time. Eventually the pellets won't come in contact with the hot rod, and you will not establish a fire. So Camp Chef figured that all out. They put a genius trapdoor. I'll show you the controller down here. Scooch this over a little bit. It's the knob right there. You can see that plate lifts up. I like to call that your safety. When it's down, it's locked in place, but when it's up, you can pull that plunger out. I'll show you from the top here while I try to pull the plunger out. Lift it up. Boom. Your ashes go out. There's no need to take your dirty, greasy trays out, find a place to put them, get your hands all dirty, get other things dirty, just to vacuum out your fire pot. Camp Chef figured that all out for you and made that ingenious trap door, which is pretty cool. Below, yeah, the ashes will just fall down in that pot there, which you just simply twist and it comes right off. Well, talk about that. Let's take a look at the wheels quick. The Camp Chef comes with 2 casters and 2 wheels, so it makes it really easy to roll around. I assembled both of these grills yesterday in my garage while it was raining out, and it was a little bit of a pain bringing the Traeger out here because the Traeger just has 2 wheels. I really like this idea that Camp Chef did. Instead of making a small cover for your hopper box, they made a nice big shelf. And as far as I'm concerned, you can always use more shelf space on your grill, especially to the left or to the right. I don't necessarily prefer a shelf out front because then you got to reach over it, but I do prefer a shelf on the left and right. And Camp Chef knocked it out of the park here with this nice big shelf. And Traeger, they just basically made a cover, you know, just big enough to cover the hopper. There is the hopper for the Traeger. Here is the pellet clean out. Unscrew it, and boom, your pellets come out. Put your bucket on the ground, hope you catch them all. Versus the Camp Chef, they did it one step ahead, one step more refined, I should say, maybe, is they put like a little chute, so it kind of funnels them, then also a nice hook to hang your bucket on it, and also has a simple, easy pull out. I'll show you that. The one thing Camp Chef did do that I think is kind of funny is they put this grate over the auger. I would assume they don't want your finger to get in the auger, and it could, you know, the auger turns really slow, but if you put it in at the right time, you may get it pinched at the last minute, and I could see it pinching your finger pretty good. But my assumption is you're old enough to use a grill, keep your fingers out of it. But Camp Chef also gave you this fork to help push the pellets out if you want to change your flavor. They recommend that you store it here in the corner like this. My thoughts are great, but if it does get bumped, and it could slip down into the auger, or even if it gets dropped, it can fall down in there and get wedged in there where you can't get it out. So I'm not liking this, don't really understand why, but that's what they did. Cord management. I usually just hang the cord between the firebox and the hopper. Camp Chef put a nice strain relief on it, so you won't worry about damaging that cord where it connects to your circuit board. Traeger did not do that. They just run the cord right up there, and I don't know what it's connected to. So that does worry me, that if you do trip on the cord or for some stupid reason you forget to leave it plugged in and you move it, you could rip it right out of there. Also this, make sure you screw that back. I guess I could show that how it drains out in here. So it just opens up like that. Change your pellets out if you want to change flavors, like if you're doing hickory for a long time and you want to get a nice red smoke ring, switch out the cherry or something. You want to swap out your pellets. The Traeger comes with 2 probes, so you can get 2 different internal temps. Oops, I just dropped one. But that's a good segue. Let's talk about the controllers. To fire up the Traeger, if this is your first firing, you need to turn it to smoke. Well, of course, turn the power on, fill the hopper, turn it to smoke, and let it run for 4 or 5 minutes. What that is going to do, it's going to prime your auger. It's going to take the pellets from your hopper here and bring them down to the fire pot. And it takes time to do that because that auger does turn slow. So once you got pellets in the fire pot, you turn it to shutdown. You let it shut down for, it takes like 10 minutes for shutdown, I guess. You let it shut down, and then you turn it back to smoke, and you let it start smoldering and establish a fire. Once there's a fire in the fire pot, then you can turn it to the temperature that you desire and cook. The Camp Chef also fixed that idea. They went ahead and went with a feed button option. It's not a button, it's a setting. You turn the controller there to feed, and what that does is it turns the auger on, and it'll feed the pellets down to the fire pot. It does not turn the hot rod on during feed. That is the only setting that will not turn the hot rod on. So in other words, if you got this thing primed and you're ready to go, you want to cook, you just go ahead and turn it to whatever set temp you want. You know, 300 degrees, come out here, turn it to 300 degrees, go in the house, prep your meat, come back out, it's 300 degrees. The Traeger, you have to turn it to smoke, let the fire establish, and then turn it to whatever temperature you want. So a little slower. There's your drip pan, your heat diffuser, both almost identical as far as gauge, cut, look. It's almost like the same manufacturer's making it. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Seer Box. This is going to be really neat, because if you're doing something on a pellet grill that takes hours to do, like a pork shoulder or a brisket or something like that, and you're smoking for 12, 13 hours, and you want to cook something else, you want to have some burgers, some brats, some hot dogs, you got this great propane grill right here. I got it apart so I can show you. Stainless steel, does have a nice igniter, a nice heavy metal knob, definitely a nice burner, a shallow lid. Then this is what they got inside. Right on top of the burner is this deflector, this grease deflector. It should hopefully keep the grease off of the burner. And then right above that is you have this heat diffuser, which will help spread out the heat. A nice finger hole here so you can get this in and out of the grill. And then a really nice cast iron. We all know cast iron holds heat, provides a super nice sear. Really nice. The one thing is I had this all together and I took it apart for the video, and I had a heck of a time getting this out of here. I had to get a tongs and pinch in there and get it out of there. I wish they would have made a, so to speak, a finger hole in this also so you can get this in and out. But with this feature here, having this propane grill right on the side is going to do a lot for you. You know, let's say you want to do a prime rib, you got a nice standing prime rib roast, do it on the smoker for a while, smoke it, get it to your desired temp, put it here on your sear box, get a nice outer crust on it. You know, that's called a reverse sear. Some people cook prime rib hot at first, and then they cook it slow, but that produces a smaller medium rare, or whatever temp you're after, area, versus if you do a reverse sear, which is low and slow at first, get it to the desired temperature you want almost, and then sear it hot, providing that nice crust. That'll produce a wider desired temperature area in your meat, doing a reverse sear. They both have top racks, a lot of cooking space in there. Let's quick talk about setup, putting them together. Traeger, super easy, not a lot to it. 4 legs, 2 handles, a chimney, and those leg supports, or leg braces between the two. The Traeger also came with all the tools you needed, so there's no chasing the toolbox to get a tool. You know, they are just cheap tools, but it was nice that you didn't have to look for anything. The woodwind went together easy also. You know, 4 legs, a shelf. This one was a little bit heavy for one person to put the sear box on, but I did it myself. I just went ahead and got the screw on my screwdriver right here in the center and got that one started while I held it up. And once that screw was started, then it supported the weight of the sear box, and I was able to finish fastening it. Super easy. The woodwind has the nice stainless steel, a lot bigger cooking chamber. I do like the idea of the fuse button on the front here, not fuse button, but the fuse holder on the front here, so if you do blow a fuse, versus the Traeger, you have to take the controller out and the fuse is located on the back of the controller. Camp Chef has just one probe for internal temp, and then it does have that bypass button if you want to restart the grill after it's already been started and already hot. For instance, if you have a power outage or you unplugged it or had to move it or whatever the reason was. So that's also kind of a nice feature. When you use the probes, instead of running them through the lid, you run them right here through this access hole. So you're not straining your lid, letting smoke out, possibly ruining your probe cable. The Traeger does the same. They have a little silicone high temp rubber or whatever it is gasket there for your probes to run through. One thing I want to quick show here is the grate. When you got the grate in the Traeger, I'll do this one-handed. Pretend all the other stuff is down below. And but okay, right? Pretend everything else is down below, but look at this guy. I mean, that slides around. I don't understand what they're thinking. You know, not even locked down, fastened down anyway. Just in there to slide around and bang around. The woodwind is not like that. They have a nice recessed area for it. Stand by, let me move this stuff. You can see how that sits in that recessed area. Now it's down in there, I guess. Has a little bit of slop in it, you know, 1/4 inch. But nothing like the 3/4 to 1.5 inches or whatever it is on the Traeger. That's going to annoy me, I can tell you that already. Alright, I'll start with firing up the Traeger for the first time. I did remove the grate and the drip pan and the heat diffuser so we can show you what it's like for the pellets to feed in. So go ahead and turn it on already, and we'll turn it to smoke like they say to do. That'll start turning the auger, feeding pellets out. I'll go ahead and time it. 4 minutes in. Still no sign of pellets. So now that'll run for, like they say, 10 minutes. So now we're going to go ahead, they say to go ahead and turn it back on to smoke, which will start that hot rod and also the auger. I don't know if you can see, but the auger is turning. Just kind of wishing there's pellets down here by now. Stay tuned, let's see if we can get it lit the first time here. I'm going to restart this. 9 minutes in, let's turn it up to, we want to cook this thing good and clean, so let's go 350. Let's see what the auger does now. Okay, here I am, 11 minutes in. Looks like I got a good enough fire going. I'm going to go ahead and put the heat deflector and the grease tray back on, and get the grate on and get it closed up. Turn it to high and cook it clean for 45 minutes. Alright, let's get back to the Camp Chef here. Let's go ahead and turn the power on. And turn it to feed. I held the bypass button down. Oh, I heard the auger clunk, and now it says feed. Let's take a look. The auger is definitely turning. Let's start my timer. And the Traeger just to see where we're at. We are 17 minutes in. Here we are, 3.5 minutes in, and I just heard some pellets fall. There they are. And it was my mistake. I did not read the manual. You are to press the bypass button when you put the setting to feed. So now that I have pellets, I can go ahead and just turn it to whatever setting I want. Let's go ahead and crank it up, right? You gotta cook this clean also. Or season it. So we set the dial to high. See, now it's switched to the word start. Let's take a look at that auger. The hot rod definitely sticks out farther on the Camp Chef. We're almost 7 minutes in on the Camp Chef, and I could feel the heat from the hot rod. So it is putting off heat. Pellets piled up against it, so it should flame up fairly soon. Traeger, almost 24 minutes in. We are at 365. Okay, here we are in the camp shaft, 7.5 minutes. Definitely starting to smolder now. Nine minutes in on the camp shaft. I'm going to go ahead and put the heat diffuser in the grease strip pan and the grate. We'll go ahead and close it up and start letting it season. Traeger now is at 26 minutes. 392 degrees. Here we are at 34 minutes in on the Traeger. Let's see what temp we're at. And the camp shaft. 17.5 minutes. And now it does say 341 degrees. Heating up fast. Alright, while the camp chef and everything's seasoning, cooking clean, let's go ahead and fire up the Seer Box. This will be a really nice option. I already have the propane tank turned on. There is no separate igniter button. It ignites when you turn it to high. It's supposed to. Still don't feel any heat. I lit it the other day before I put the grate on it. There it goes. Boy, that thing's hot. Let's go ahead and turn it down to low. Close the lid up. Let all that get cleaned up. Alright, here we are almost 44.5 minutes in on the Traeger. Still running at that 437 degrees. And the camp shaft. We are at almost 28 minutes in. And we're at 447 degrees. Quite a bit hotter. I'm not sure what the Traeger runs at when it's supposed to be on high temp. Traeger manual, and it does not say what the high temp setting is. It just says high temperature setting is for grilling. The smoke setting is used for smoking, blah blah blah. So they're saying the smoke setting is about 165, but they don't say what the high setting is. So right now we are almost 49 minutes in. I have not opened the lid at all. We are at 426 degrees. Well, maybe I did open the lid at first when I was first putting it together, because this is from when I first turned it on. So, but the lid's, I bet it's been closed for at least 45 minutes. Camp chef. Lid's been closed equal, you know, a few minutes less than this. 32 minutes in. And the camp chef is at 465. On the camp chef, the high setting reaches temperatures of 500 degrees. Remember, I still got this guy cooking through the Seer Box. Let's go take a peek at that. Definitely hot. I'm going to go ahead and shut that off. I'm sure that's burned clean. 1 hour in on the Traeger. Temp is 426. Nice hot summer day. It's probably like 75, 78 degrees out. Camp chef is at almost 44 minutes. Look at that, 491 degrees. That's what you want to cook a pizza on, along with all kinds of other stuff. Traeger just doesn't get hot enough the way it seems. Traeger's at an hour and 16 minutes. Up to 434 now. Camp chef. It's almost at its hour mark. And we are still climbing, 491. First I said I was going to cook them clean for an hour, but I think I'm going to let them go longer. The pellets that I'm using are junk. Never did like them, so we'll go ahead and burn them up. Here we are in the Traeger, coming up at 2-hour mark. Traeger's at that 430 degrees. Go 2 hours. Turn it to shutdown. Once the Traeger cools off, I'll go ahead and take the stuff out, and we'll go out and drain the pellets and compare which one used the most pellets. So we're at 1:43 on the Woodwind Camp Chef. 498 degrees, gotta like that. Here we are, we're coming up on the 2-hour mark on the Camp Chef. I have not opened the lid at all in that entire time. We're at 491 degrees. Let's go ahead and turn it to shutdown. Well, 8 minutes, almost 8.5 minutes into the Camp Chef shutdown. But let's go ahead and start draining the pellets and see which one used the most. Before I started each one up, I put 4 bucketfuls. That's the Traeger grease bucket. Put 4 bucketfuls of each one filled with pellets. And then I went ahead and drained the pellets using the hopper clean out, just to see how the hopper clean out went. And then I also did is that filled that little bit of the auger. So now I'll go ahead and drain the pellets and see which one used the most for the 2-hour period. It was more convenient, the Camp Chef hopper clean out is just one hand. You hook your bucket on there, you pull your drain lever, or your hopper clean out lever, and then you got to push the pellets out. Versus the Traeger, you had to hold the hopper door open, or the clean out door open, then push pellets out. So it's kind of a two-handed job, and no place to put your bucket or hang your bucket or anything. So let's go ahead and see what the Camp Chef used, and I'll get back to you. I already know what the Traeger used, and I have the final tally. Remember, I ran them for 2 hours on high. The Traeger, 2 hours on high, the highest temp it reached was 435 degrees, and it went through 2 1/4 buckets of pellets. The Camp Chef ran for 2 hours also. High temps is 501 degrees, and that used 2.5 buckets. It's a 1/4 bucket more. You think about that, that was almost a 70 degree difference, and only a 1/4 bucket more. But there you go. Now they're broke in. Now I'll start doing some cooking on them. Stay tuned for more videos, doing a side-by-side comparison.